Do you feel like you're winning in life, or do you feel like you're just wasting your potential no matter how hard you try? I want you to think carefully before you answer, because your answer can determine what your 2026 looks like. Because here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your momentum. So if you feel like you are winning in life, your brain will expect you to keep winning. And that obviously compounds. You see it in entrepreneurs whose confidence and income keeps on compounding every time they have a win. You also see it in athletes, people like Virat Kohli, Roger Federer, Ronaldo. Once they win, they continue to have a win streak. You even see it in relationships. People who already feel desirable continue to become more attractive. Winning literally rewires your brain chemistry. But the opposite is also true. When you're stuck in self-doubt or comparison, your brain basically forgets what it feels like to win. And as a result, you start losing more often. This actually happened to me in this past year, where I started comparing my own growth to that of other creators, and I started feeling badly about myself because I was not growing at the same pace that I was growing last year. And that sort of negative momentum showed up in my work, how I showed up in work and how I showed up in my personal life. And trust me, it is not about talent or how hardworking you are. It is about training your brain to remember what winning feels like. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that using simple tweaks that are rooted in psychology and neuroscience. We are going to rebuild your winner mindset and get you back on that upward spiral. Let's begin. And it starts with a perception shift. Most of us, you included, have an unhealthy relationship with the results that we achieve in life, right? We are either taught to be very modest whenever we achieve something, or we are taught to brush off failures. We're never really taught to celebrate our wins and feel proud about our own achievements. So when things do not go our way, we instantly forget every past win, we discount our progress, and we start saying things like, well, this wasn't a big deal, or, well, that doesn't count. And I used to do this too. For a really long time, I just kept jumping from one goal to the next, to the next, to the next, without ever pausing to reflect how far I've actually come. And this, I realized, kept me stuck in an over-anxious, overcompensating mindset. Because here's the thing, to your brain, all of these small brush-offs, all of these modest encounters matter a lot. No matter what your current results look like, the winner effect, the winner mindset is more about perception than actual proof. Even if you have no track record of winning, your brain doesn't really care. It only learns from what you focus on because of neuroplasticity, which means your brain strengthens whatever neural pathways you use the most. So when you constantly focus on your losses, or when you brush off your wins, you are literally wiring your brain to expect more losses. So when you are stuck in a negative spiral, I want you to remind yourself of every single small win that you have had. You showed up to work when you didn't feel like it, that's a win. You finally sent that email that you've been avoided, that's a win. You woke up, got out of bed, made your bed on a day that you were feeling depressed, that is a win. All of that is evidence, and the more of it you collect, the stronger your identity as a winner becomes. Because winning is subjective. Your brain does not really know the difference between what actually happened and what you believe happened. That is why visualizing success or replaying moments in your head where you're proud of your work, or that show that you won in something, really helps strengthen the same neural pathways as real wins. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you already know how passionately I advocate for visualization. In fact, every successful person out there actually advocates for visualization. In one of his interviews with Jay Shetty, Novak Djokovic talked about how he visualizes himself winning before he even steps onto the court. And that is what puts him in that winning mindset. Now, we'll circle back to the concept of visualizing in the end, but for now, I want to warn you as well. Because if you do this wrong, if you do the winner mindset wrong, it can actually backfire. Celebrating the wrong wins does not build momentum, it actually destroys it. And if you are an elder daughter, you will find that this is very true for your life as well. Many of us grew up being the responsible one, the mature one, the kid who gets things right the first time around. We learned very early on that love and approval often come from being good, not from actually growing. So as adults, we actually became people who chased perfection and avoided risk, because mistakes feel like we are letting our imaginary elders down. Neuroscience actually backs this up. Psychologist Dr. Carol Dweck and her colleague Claudia Miller ran one of the most famous studies on motivation and winning. And the results explain exactly why this happens. They divided a group of students into two categories. One group was praised for being smart, like how, elder daughters are praised for being good. And the other group was praised for the effort that they put into the task. When both groups were later given a choice between choosing an easy problem or choosing a difficult problem, the difference was massive. The smart kids, or the kids that were labeled as smart, chose the easy task. They did not want to risk their label of being smart, just like most women will choose to keep sacrificing or keep staying stuck in situations rather than risk the label of being the good girl. Now, on the other hand, kids who were praised for their effort actually chose the harder task because being challenged felt like growth to them, not failure. And when the scores came in, the kids who were praised for effort outperformed the intelligence or smart praised ones by a huge margin. And I think sportsmen and sportswomen are great examples of this. They have faced a lot of losses in life, but they focus on their effort rather than on the outcome of the game. And I think that is super, super important because as adults, when we only reward ourselves for outcomes, the numbers or the validations or the results, we actually stay stuck in that smart kid or elder daughter mentality. We play it safe because our brain thinks that approval equals safety. But when we learn to celebrate effort, right? The mehnat that we did for a particular thing, the focus, the consistency, the follow through, we train our brain to associate growth with winning. So instead of saying, I'm so talented, try saying things like, I'm so proud of how I showed up today. I am so proud of all the effort that I put in today. That tiny shift keeps your brain wired for challenge instead of simply validation. Because winners are not people who are addicted to praise, they are people who are addicted to progress. This brings me to point number 3. You need to build momentum. You know how when you start working out, the first few days are absolute hell. Your body is sore, you don't see any change, and you're like, why am I even doing this? But within a week, you start flowing into a routine. You start feeling more at home in the gym, and you start enjoying your workouts a little bit more. That is because your body is adapting. Your brain actually works the exact same way. It's a muscle. The more you train it, the better it performs. But here is what most people don't get. It is not actually the big wins that build confidence. It is the early tiny wins that actually build confidence and therefore build momentum. We think that confidence comes after success, right? But psychology says that confidence comes before success, and it is built through those small fast wins that tell your brain, hey, I can actually do this. Tim Ferriss calls this uninformed optimism. When you're learning something new, your brain literally needs that first dopamine hit, that little taste of progress to survive the hard part. That is why people who get even one small win early on in the game are way more likely to stick with that thing for years. So think about any big success story, right? Gary Vee, if you have not heard of him, he was this very famous entrepreneur on social media a few years back. He got early validation for business from his dad's liquor store experiment. It proved that his ideas could work. Mr. Beast uploaded for years before becoming a phenomenon. But his first viral video, which was very early on in his journey, gave him a shot of confidence that he never forgot. Those moments essentially built internal evidence that I can do this if I just stick around with it for long enough. So if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're feeling like you're in a negative mindset spiral, I want you to stop trying to create a perfect success story and try and focus on daily tiny wins, small, obvious wins. If you get up out of bed, make your bed, brush your teeth, that's a win. If you go to the gym once, that's a win. If you finish one video, that is a win. If you send that one pitch, that is a win. Because once your brain remembers what it feels like to win, momentum takes over. The goal is not to get it all right. The goal is to get it started and then stack those tiny wins until your brain forgets how to lose. And this brings me to the next point. You need to rebuild trust in your own word. Because here is the hard truth. You are the only reason that you are not succeeding. And I know this hurts to hear, but until you actually acknowledge it, there is no moving forward. Think about it. Remember your 2025 resolutions? How many of them have you actually stuck to? But I'm sure that you did meet that friend that you promised to catch up with. And there's nothing wrong with meeting your friend, except it shows something simple. You will keep your promises to others, but you'll not keep the ones to yourself. So here's what you need to understand. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, and you don't start, you don't just lose time, you lose trust in your own brain. And when you can't trust your own word, it is impossible to feel like a winner no matter how many achievements you have. Psychologically, this is called cognitive dissonance, the gap between who you say you are and what you actually do. And over time, that gap is what actually kills momentum. That is why things like 75 Hard or Drive 30 work so well. It is not because they're intense, it is because they build consistency. Every time you follow through, even on something very small, you strengthen your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that controls discipline and decision making. You are literally teaching your brain, when I say it, I mean it. And that is the simplest way to build a winner mindset. You look at David Goggins, I have used his example before. He's one of the toughest endurance athletes in the world. He used to be overweight, depressed, and working a dead-end job. But one day, he decided to stop lying to himself. He started keeping small promises, waking up early, running a mile, eating clean. And over time, he rebuilt his identity from I can't to I don't quit. He's now a Navy SEAL, an ultra marathon runner, and one of the most mentally resilient people alive. That is what keeping promises does. It changes who you believe you are. But one thing I also want you to remember is that regardless of how many promises you keep to yourself or how many times you win, you will also have hard parts where you have to push through. And during those times, the only thing that is standing between you and progress is not lack of effort, it is unrealistic expectations. Let me explain. Imagine that you plant a seed, you water it every single day for weeks, and nothing is happening, right? If that seed could think, it would probably say something is wrong with me. You know, everyone else is blooming, I'm just stuck in the dark. But underground, it is building roots, the part that actually determines how tall it grows. Most of us quit during our root phase, or as psychology calls it, the latent learning phase. Basically, this is the part where your brain absorbs information before visible progress actually shows up. We mistake unseen progress for failure, when in reality, that is when the foundation of any of your journeys is being built. We've all trained our brain for instant dopamine, right? One click, one swipe, one tap, and boom, you get a reward. So now when you try to build something in real life, your brain expects the same speed. But that is not how growth works. You meditate once and you think, I couldn't stop my thoughts, I'm bad at this. You post 10 videos and go, I'm failing, I'm only getting 500 views. You try building a habit on one app like Notion, and when you miss 2 days, you think you've ruined your streak. But the truth is that you're not failing. You are just learning at normal speed. You are building habits, you're building your roots that will eventually show you results. The problem is not your progress, it is your expectations. Everybody wants to be calm after one meditation session, or successful after 1 month of putting in effort, or consistent after just filling their planner once. But every skill, whether it's confidence, whether it's success, peace, has a messy middle part. You are not behind, you are just comparing your beginning to somebody else's middle or end. Okay, let me give you a real world example of this. Ariana Grande, if you've not heard of her, she's a very popular pop singer. For years, she was known mostly as the Nickelodeon girl because she got famous from doing shows on Nickelodeon. And she had this high ponytail that everybody mocked her for. People underestimated her. They called her too pop. They said she didn't write her own music or that she was just another teen star. But behind the scenes, she was writing, she was producing, she was trying to find her own sound. She was growing through heartbreak, through public scrutiny and reinvention after reinvention. So when her track, Thank You Next, dropped, it wasn't luck. It was years of quiet work, emotional evolution, and resilience showing up all at once. Now, she's not just a pop star, she's a powerhouse, an artist who owns her own story and her sound completely. This reminds me of the popular quote, overnight success takes years to build. So instead of just asking yourself, why am I not there yet? Ask yourself, what if this frustration actually means that I'm making progress? Because growth is not linear, it is a spiral. You'll circle back to the same challenges or at least similar challenges again and again. But every time you do, you come back wiser, steadier, and closer to mastery. Now, even after you've mastered this middle portion and you are putting in your effort and you are waiting for that progress to kick in, even after you've been on a win streak multiple times, there will be times in your life where you lose. I remember someone I met a while ago, they once told me something that completely threw me off. It kind of changed my perception about this whole thing. They said, learn to fail. And I know this sounds like a very, common quote, but when somebody tells this to you in person, it kind of hits different. And my first reaction was, well, I've heard this multiple times before, but throughout life, we've been told to avoid failure, right? Study so that you don't fail, be kind so that you don't fail as a person, work hard so that you don't fail in life. But this person, they said something that I'll never forget. The faster you fail, the faster you succeed. To paint a mental picture, think of a staircase that leads from where you are right now to where you want to go, right? You'd think that success is the shiny thing that's waiting on top of the staircase, and that is true, right? That's your end goal, but that's not the ultimate success. It's just your goal for now. But every step you take on the ladder till you reach that point is a small failure. It's a tiny failure. Every wrong turn, every rejection, every awkward moment, that is the step that gets you closer to the top. And that is when it hit me. The only difference between people who keep winning and the ones who stay stuck is not that they fail less, it's that they fail differently. Take Michael Jordan, for example. Before he became the Michael Jordan, he was actually cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine that. A guy who would go on to become like the greatest basketball player of all time did not even make his school team at first. Most people would have taken that as proof that they were not good enough and they would have quit right there. They would not have pursued basketball further. But he didn't do that. He used that rejection as fuel. He practiced harder than ever. He studied his weak spots. He treated that failure like feedback. Later in his career, he missed thousands of shots, and he openly talks about how those missed shots were what made him really great. Because every single time that he missed, it taught him something about timing, about focus, about pressure, about himself. That is the same mindset that we are talking about. Failing differently. Instead of spiraling, he took feedback. He analyzed. Instead of thinking about why did that happen to me, he asked, what can I do better next time? And that is why he didn't just become a player who avoided failure, he became the kind who grew from failure. That's literally what psychologists call self-distancing. Basically, you step back from the emotion and you look at things objectively. Athletes do this all the time. When Federer loses a match, he doesn't sit there sulking, right? He rewatches the game to understand what went wrong. It's not to blame himself, but to gather data. Most people don't do that. They fail once and they go, maybe I'm just not good enough. They don't look at the data. They stop trying. But people who grow, they actually treat failure as data points. And that is the real difference. You have to remember, guys, success or growth is not the opposite of failure. It is built on top of failure. And this finally brings me to the point of visualization. You know how we spoke about visualization in the beginning? I want to dig a little deeper with you here, because when it comes to thinking of myself as a winner, visualization is one thing that has changed the game completely for me. I started doing this back in 2018, 2019 when I was really stuck in a rut. My life was not doing great. There was low motivation, zero wins. I decided to start visualizing what a successful life for me would look like, right? And I would do this every day for months on end. And slowly along the way, something weird started to happen. I began acting a little more like my successful self every single day. And neuroscience has a whole explanation for this. It's called mental rehearsal, and it literally means that your brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined. So when you visualize yourself doing something successfully, like giving a presentation or waking up early or hitting your goals or earning X amount of money, your brain activates the same neural pathways as if you were actually doing it. Basically, you are rehearsing success before it happens. Even top athletes use this. Before every single race, Michael Phelps would close his eyes and see everything. The dive, the turns, the water splashing, the final push to the wall. He trained his mind to experience victory before his body even hit the pool. So when the real race came, it wasn't new to him. His brain already believed that he had won. So here is what I want you to try in regards to this, and I think you can try it tonight. Close your eyes and picture your 2026 self, the version of you who is consistent, who is confident, who is peaceful, who is going after their goals like nobody's business. Watch her move through the day. Watch how her day unfolds, how she starts her morning, how she talks to people, how she handles tough moments. Don't just see it, but try to feel it as well. Because once your brain learns what that version of you feels like, it will start working to make her real. Your brain always follows what it believes. So teach it to believe in your glow up before it even happens. Okay, I've been talking for a really long time. So quickly, let's recap what we have covered in this video. We talked about how the winner effect is not about luck. It is simply about rewiring your brain to expect success. And once you do that, it starts creating success. So the first step in this is to train your brain to notice wins. Stop skipping your small stuff and understand that every little win counts. So you can keep a winning journal, or you can keep like a win jar, where every time you do something that is motivation for you, is a win for you, you note it down, you keep it in the jar. And whenever you're feeling down, you can actually come back to that journal or jar and reread it so that your brain remembers what it feels like to win again. So basically, the idea is to focus on progress, not perfection. Next, we talked about rewarding your effort, not your ego. Basically, don't just celebrate once you achieve an outcome. Celebrate how you showed up for that outcome every single day. That is what keeps your brain wired for growth instead of fear. Next, you want to stack your wins. Momentum is like a muscle. Build it with small, quick wins, and those first few successes, no matter how tiny they are what remind your brain, I can do this. After that, you need to rebuild trust in your own words. Start keeping the promises that you make to yourself, even the smallest ones. The second you start doing what you say you'll do, your confidence skyrockets. And while you are doing that, you need to learn how to adjust your expectations. You are not failing, you are just learning at a normal speed. Your growth is not like an Instagram scroll where every scroll gives you a dopamine hit. Every bit of effort you put in is laying roots even if you can't see them right now. So adjust your expectations accordingly. Even once you do so, you need to learn to lose intelligently. Stop fearing failure. But once you fail, study it. Every loss is a step. Every loss is data that gets you closer to your win. The faster you fail, the faster you learn, and the faster you get to success. And finally, don't stop visualizing your dream self. See that version of you who already wins and start acting like them now. Your brain does not wait for proof, it follows belief. You don't become a winner after success. You decide to be a winner before it even happens. And that was it for today's video. Before I let you go, here is your challenge for the next 7 days. Write down one small win every single night before you go to bed. Does not matter how tiny it is. Just go through your entire day, pick one moment where you felt even a little bit like a winner and jot it down in your winner journal or your winner jar. By the end of the week, you will feel your mindset start to shift. And make sure you go check out this video next because YouTube says you're gonna love it. And I'm gonna see you guys very, very soon in another one. Bye.